Sustainability is the future. It's a hot topic. In all aspects, people are looking at more sustainable alternatives, and so should we when it comes to developments and properties. But what exactly is a sustainable development? To discuss this, I have a very special guest joining me today, the CEO of ZāZEN Properties Development, Mr. Madhav Dhar, who has actually built a sustainable development project in Dubai. They are one of the first few people to actually do this. Now, without wasting any further time, I would like to straight get into the episode and ask him what exactly happens when you're actually building a sustainable development. But before I go ahead, guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're watching this on any other platform, please give your likes, comments, shares. I would really appreciate that. Help me grow my channel. Now, without wasting any further time, let's cue the music. Hi, Madhav. Welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time out and coming over here for, telling us more about sustainable developments.
Thank you very much. Pleasure being here.
Why don't you start with just giving a small introduction about your company, ZāZEN Developments, what exactly it is and what is it that you all do?
Sure. So ZāZEN Properties was started in 2018.
Okay.
The idea was to be the first real sustainable developer in the country.
Okay.
And starting off with Dubai, which we've only done projects in Dubai till now. And we sort of noticed a gap in the market where we realized that the trend was moving towards more end users, because as the economy grows, you expect more people to settle here. And we wanted to focus on building for people to live and grow, not just for what's easy to sell.
Exactly.
So that was a big change in mindset.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of people still in Dubai, you ride the boom, as they say. And while things are selling, they try to get rid of inventory. We looked at it from the other side. We wanted to add value to the landscape of Dubai. I'm born in Dubai, so consider this home. And we wanted to do so sustainably. We wanted to do so by making an effort in terms of the quality, the finishings. We wanted to see how you would live in the apartment and then build it around that, rather than building a small box and moving it forward.
Right. Now, you very rightly mentioned that you want to build homes where people grow, right? And that comes down to the size and the kind of space they're living in. And we're seeing this trend that most developers, to maintain the kind of a price bracket, are going smaller day by day on the size, right? Because that's how they are increasing the price per square foot and selling it at a higher, literally at a higher price with the same ticket size.
Correct.
The value remains same, but you're getting less space.
Correct.
Now, do you see that as a challenge when you're developing, your sizes are bigger than, say, standard sizes in the market, but do you see that as a challenge in commanding a higher price?
Well, not really. So, our intention is from the get-go is always, and I've seen this because I've worked at a lot of real estate companies, is to always deliver what we show in the brochure, right, and what we show in the show unit. Unfortunately, that still isn't at par in the market.
True.
So what we decided to do from the start is, from ZāZEN 1, which is our first project in JVT, is that we create a show unit where you can come, see, feel, touch, you experience the space. You also experience the community that is built. So we have a a slogan, which is sustainable community living. And by that, we want to create not just a building, we want to create a community. And this is more in line with what you see in more mature markets, where everyone knows each other, your neighbors, you can go borrow some sugar or some tea.
True.
So we want to create that feeling. And we do so by creating spaces within the building that add a lot more value. So even if we're giving a residence lounge, it's not just a room with a table and a sofa inside it. There are activities, there are ways to socialize. We have barbecue stations, we have a heated pool, we have an outdoor deck. We've got a jogging track within the building. So we've created spaces where, again, we expect people to socialize. We understand that it's not always going to happen. So I think that, along with the quality of the finishing that you get, and I would say that for our price bracket, we are by far, if not the highest quality, one of the top few developers who give the highest quality in our price bracket. So I think all of these combined help us sell easier. And I'll give you a live example. We've had a gentleman in our first project who's come in, and our price was slightly higher than the market in JVT when we launched. And he's like, oh, what is this? He saw the show unit. He's like, it's nice, but wow, it's such a high price. I want to go out and see everywhere. We're like, sure, please go out. We're not desperate for your sale. Please go out. He went out. This gentleman came back, I think, a week later and bought 3 units with us. So we are happy for people to go and see themselves.
Right.
We're not forcing a sale. Like I said, we are not trying to sell out as quickly as possible. We want people to understand the community we're trying to create. And I think that in turn deserves a slightly higher price point. And you're willing to pay for it because the experience you get, the experience your children will get as you live in this place for the next 5, 7, 10 years.
True.
It's worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, when you talk about sustainable development, now, what exactly is sustainable development?
Sure. So, sustainability as a phrase, obviously it's the big catchword this year because COP28 is happening end of November and December in Dubai. The reason why we chose to be sustainable, let's start with that, is that we wanted to obviously add value to Dubai, but we wanted to do it in a considerate way. Right. The construction industry in urban areas accounts for about 40% of global emissions.
Okay.
Right? In any urban city, you'll find that. And it's a global stat. Now, we know that the speed at which, just within this region, I'm not just talking about Dubai, but within the whole region, the construction speed is unbelievable, right?
Yes.
So you only see cranes everywhere. So we said, okay, how can we add value and still be kind to the environment? Because at the end of the day, our whole goal is balance, right? You balance the right finishing with the right community activities, with the right size of the apartment, and construct it wisely. So it's a balance of everything. Yes. Now, when it comes to what sustainable construction means or sustainable development means, it starts from concept. So everything within the design phase, you think about airflow, you think about heat, you think about how the sun reflects, what type of glass you use. And it goes all the way through to construction where you source your material as close as possible. So we don't go and source everything from China because, all the emissions that come from transporting is there. So there are lots of things that go into it. And then obviously in operations, how you manage the building, how do you reduce energy consumption, how do you optimize water flow? So all of these things have to be thought about from the beginning pretty much.
Yes.
And it's not easy for everyone to do. Obviously, there is an added cost to it because the types of material you use, because of where we're located. I mean, I can't use less cooling because I need to have AC, right?
Yes.
But how do you balance it? How do you make it so that it doesn't impact your end user?
Right.
So at the end of the day, the consumer, like you would come in and you saw our apartment, really the fact is you don't care if it's sustainable or not, right? That's the truth. As long as your way of life is not adversely affected, in fact, if I can even add value, that's even better.
Yeah.
So we decided from the get-go that we would absorb that cost. It's not about making the most money today. It's about building a brand that sort of aligns with the goals of the government, which is also, you've got the 2040 plan, the 2050 carbon neutral plan. So we wanted to be, we'd started this before all these plans came out, but it so happened that we were thinking in the same direction. And I think sustainable development is something that needs to happen. I'm a small developer, I'm a private developer.
Yes.
Yes, I do quality buildings and I target end users and I target for people to grow. But the fact is that I'm competing against people who have 5,000, 10,000 units a year.
True.
So those are the people who will need to step up. And I think that'll probably end up happening from the turn of the year when all the new regulations come in after the COP28. But for example, we have done something called, we have benchmarked ourselves against LEED. LEED is a global sustainability standard. And we will be the Zazen Gardens in Al Furjan will be the first LEED Gold certified residential building in the country, probably in the region. I haven't heard of any others. It's easier for a commercial space to do it, but not for residential space. So we, it's been challenging, but I mean, we're literally in the last 5 months of delivery. So, we're almost at the finish line.
That's great. Now tell me something, when you're doing a development, which is a sustainable development, such as, the one you mentioned in Furjan now. Now, obviously this must have required a lot of planning from the beginning, as you mentioned. And obviously there's a cost involved. Now, if you were to do a normal building, what a lot of other developers are doing, and say the cost is, let's assume 100, right? Compared to that, how much more of a cost is it to do a development like this?
So, depending on your level of sustainability, I mean, you're in the industry, so it's all a factor of the finishing.
Yes.
At the end of the day, the higher your finishing inside each unit, the more your cost will be. Now, to find the right balance, people think of sustainable development as, oh my God, it's going to cost me so much. But the fact is that if you look at it long term, right, if you look at it from the operation side of it later, it'll balance itself out in 5 to 6 years. Now, how much? I can give you in percentage terms, probably around 5 to 7%.
Right.
Depending on, what type of finishing and what level of sustainability you're going for. That's a big cost, right? It's not small. However, how do we give back to our community of buyers and owners? So, for example, live example again, Zazen Gardens, we have solar panels on the roof. Even in our first project we do. These solar panels generate enough electricity that it will reduce your common area requirement annually by 25 to 30%.
Wow.
And we pass that on to the end user or to the buyer or the investor in terms of reduced service charges. So whereas if you benchmark us, we are targeted to be around 12.5 dirhams a square foot. But if you look at a building our size, and we have a huge footprint, it's about 310,000 square feet built up area. Buildings our size with our facilities will be about 16, 17, right? So we pass that directly back on to end users. We are, again, trying to add value to what they do. And I, look, don't take my word for it. I always say, please come and see for yourself, because the only way you'll actually believe something like this exists, especially in Dubai, where people may have been taken for a slight ride or gone left instead of right, is to see it and feel it. And, we are proud that we deliver what we promise and when we promise.
Right. Oh, that's great. Tell me something. How now, you previously mentioned you're also competing against, some big developers whose inventory is 1,000, 5,000 units. As a private developer in Dubai, how easy do you think is it to, build and sell? Do you find the mechanism and the whole system cooperative? What are the challenges you face as a developer?
Look, especially, coming from India, it's a breeze compared to most other places, right?
Yes.
Now, obviously, there are challenges in every market.
Absolutely.
But I really think that the land department have tried to streamline everything pretty well. Just the level of construction in the last 18 months obviously has caused a little bit of a roadblock, which is expected. I mean, when you're booming, everyone's going to jump on the bandwagon. But apart from that, if that was set aside, I think it's relatively straightforward. As long as you have your documentation in place, you've got the right escrow set up, and you've got the right sales sort of set up in place, it's relatively straightforward. I don't think it's super complicated. There are obviously, like I said, every government organization runs in its own way, so you need to understand the nuances. But I think they've set up a great system, and there's always room for improvement, and I believe that they themselves do it without anyone having to tell them. They're always sort of trying to reinvent, optimize, and move forward.
Got it. Now, when you said that talking about service charges, now because your development is a sustainable development, the service charges are less, which also means that investors would be paying less towards the service charges, because usually the landlord pays the service charges. Now, do you think that this is one factor which actually generates more interest from buyers to go ahead for a development like this?
Look, see, the landlord, you mean the developer or the owner?
The owner.
So yes, it is a good sort of hook to bring people in. But look, at the end of the day, when you're talking about a whatever 10, 15,000, 20,000 dirhams over the year, depending on the size of your unit, it's not going to make that much of a difference, right? I understand that people put in their hard-earned money, whether they're spending 1 million or 5 million on a house or an apartment. These small things obviously make a difference, but I think, yes, it's a good hook to bring people in, reduce service charges. But again, then it gets passed on after the first year to the owners association to set the budget and deal with the Molak and land department to sort of optimize the service charges every year. So after the first year, the developer really doesn't have a say, right? It is the owners association and the owners association committee that sort of gets together and figures out, yes, I want 24/7 a private butler in every apartment, so it'll go up.
Of course.
But they still need to come in and they still need to see what they're getting. Because even if my service charge is 12.5 dirhams a square foot, but they see the quality of the work that I've done in the common areas is poor, they know that after the first year, that's going to rise really quickly. So it's really important to get the right balance in place. And you have to always, at least I always think of it this way, is that I have to find a way to add value.
Of course, right. Why did you choose Furjan as a location for your project?
So we started off in 2018 when we started acquiring land, when we set up our company. And for me, obviously, a lot of people said, go to JVC first.
Yes.
And for me, when I drove through it, there was just, I don't know how to explain it. People love JVC and it's a great community now. I have nothing against it. But for me personally, it was still too much concrete. It was just, everything was being built and just didn't feel right to me. So the first we bought was in JVT across. And for me, that was amazing because it was mainly townhouses and there were very few apartment buildings and we had space to build something unique. We like JVT because it's central. There's a school right in the community. There's a nursery in the community. The Nakheel Mall, which was meant to open like 2 years ago, and I think is going to open 2 years from now, is probably 200-300 meters from our building. So it was right. It had everything nearby. And like I said, it's about community for us and building that community. So that was the reason we chose JVT. Similarly, when we moved on to Furjan, our plots that we picked up are about a 7-minute walk from the metro, from the Gardens metro station. So for us, that was really important. We wanted connectivity. We wanted, again, we knew there was a school there in Furjan. We knew that Ibn Battuta was right down the road. We have 2 retail outlets in our project as well. So we know that everything is sort of connected and that community environment can be built. So those are the main reasons. And I think Furjan is really, really under the radar currently because with the metro lines, I think, and with the Palm Jabal Ali going to come up in the next, 3-4 years, 5 years, I think a lot of people who will work in the service industry there will end up staying in Furjan just because of the connectivity. Furjan and similarly Jabal Ali, the Al Wasl area. So I think these 2 areas are really sort of under the radar right now. A lot of focus has been obviously on the prime areas, which is just crazy. I can't imagine risking so much money on a plot because my sales rate has to be $1,000 a square foot for me to even make a little bit of money. But I think these areas, JVT, I still think is brilliant. Arjan has come out very nicely. It's commanding high prices. But again, like you said, the unit sizes are really small. And actually, it's good for me. Please go on building that way because, we are very clear on what we want to do. And like I said, you come and see it for yourself.
True. Also, a lot of people actually don't know about JVT. Because everybody, the focus is on JVC and JVC has somehow always been in the limelight. Whereas if you see JVT as a community, it's a more, I would say, more matured, more cleaner and nicer community. And it's not become now, but it's been ever since.
It's been like 5-7 years like this.
So a lot of people don't know about JVT, but
and it's right after the spring. So it's on this right side of Al Khail Road, so you don't get caught in like crazy traffic. I think JVC is mainly because it's a little more wild west. They have a massive hotel there, which has attracted a lot of people over the last 3-4 years. So And why not? Again, it's affordable, relatively affordable. I think now not so much anymore. It's probably gone up to 1,400 dirhams a square foot.
Absolutely.
But like I said, in Dubai now, as the market is maturing, compared to global cities, well-known global cities, even at 1,300 dirhams a square foot, very competitive, right? You're still making 6.5% to 7% net ROI as an investor.
Right.
And as an end user, there's only capital appreciation, because if you buy in any of these areas now and you hold, say, for the next 10, 12 years, this is still going to be the center of Dubai, right?
Yeah.
Dubai can only go inwards into the desert unless they start building 10,000 islands on the water, which is possible. Anything is possible here. I really believe it. But I think these are good bets either ways, right? And one thing that I always tell my sales teams is that people will always come and, there's always hurdles, and they always say, oh, but for an investor, the price is higher. They don't want to pay 950. They only want to pay 850 for a 1-bedroom, and it's easy in and out. I'm like, look, what are you going to tell the investor? At the end of the day, he needs to rent it out.
Absolutely.
Renting out a Zazen apartment is 100 times easier because there is no competition.
True.
Right? You will not get this space, you will not get this facility, you will not get this finishing.
Yeah.
So even for that investor, he needs to understand that even when the market goes up and down, what you buy with us will still hold value. And this was true at Zazen 1, even during COVID. Our rental values were still 25% higher than the market. And we held value no matter what was going on around us. And I think that's just a function of the effort that's been put in to get a really good quality product.
No, I totally agree with you, because, this is what even I tell clients all the time, that look, don't just look at, a big brand, or, just see, okay, you're able to see the ads everywhere. That doesn't mean the product is good. See the product, look at the fundamentals, which is what's the size, what's the layout, what's the price per square foot. Then make a decision. Just don't go by the ticket value. Correct. Or, the X developer is selling at 800,000. I said 800,000 is, but what are you taking, right? It has to always compare. You always need to compare the price per square foot, see what they're giving and what kind of quality they're delivering.
Correct.
Because this is what, we've also seen across the city, that wherever there's a good product, good size, good fit, finish, no matter what the markets are, people always want that. I mean, okay, the entire market's rent can go up, down, but even in a down market, these kind of buildings always fetch higher rent than the competition. And the biggest thing is they're always occupied.
Correct.
Because, for an investor who's buying for passive income or rental return, even if the apartment stays vacant for 2 or 3 months, it actually really, makes a difference in the cash flow.
Correct.
So, that definitely is there. Now, what's the future plan with, other projects?
So we have another project in Furjan,
Okay.
which is sort of just gone under design development now.
Right.
We aim to launch that hopefully in the next 5 to 6 months. We again are trying to add value. I've noticed, and this is a good thing, that a lot of people are now imitating what we do. So for example, we were one of the first, I don't know if we were the first, but we sort of restarted the 2-bedroom plus maid's room configuration.
Yes.
And we did that in 2020. We have a wait list for that product.
Absolutely.
Right? And our product is unique because, like I said, when I plan, I look at 5 years down the line. I don't look at what's working now. I look at what is going to happen in 3 to 5 years, what the market will be, what the kind of population will be, what's developing in each of these micro markets, what my competition will be. So I do all of that research. And I think, that configuration going down the line is going to be really, really great, because you're going to end up having both parents working with a kid, and they need house help. So a lot of people have now started copying what we're doing, from whether it's design related or configuration related, and that's a good thing. So we are trying to reinvent as well.
What do you think is the main reason for, because this is a common problem across the city, that when you see a 3-bedroom, I think 95% of the 3-bedroom apartments, they come with a maid's room.
Correct.
But literally 90% of the 2-bedroom apartments do not come with a maid's room. So what is the, I mean, in your research, have you found a reason why developers are not doing that?
Yeah, because they don't want to, it's harder to sell. For them in their mind,
Right.
they just don't understand. They haven't thought about how the city is growing.
Right.
Right? It's that simple. So
Absolutely.
there are a lot of new developers who've come into the market in
Yes.
the last 2 years, right?
Yes.
Everyone wants to jump on. And what are they doing? Yes, of course, they've got money. They might get the right consultant. They might get the right contractor. But what are you trying to create?
Yeah.
And for me, like I said, I'm a Dubai kid, right?
Yes.
I have grown up here. I've seen it from sand. For me, this is home.
Yeah.
So I want to add value in everything, and I understand how, in Dubai typically the cycle is every 4 years. It
Right.
goes up and down, right? So we're coming to the 4th year now, sort of towards the middle of the 4th year.
Yes.
And I think that to understand how to ride out those cycles, you need to have a product that's unique.
True.
And that requires planning, which people don't have. I'll give you an example now. So we approximately, right now in Dubai, there are about 600,000 units available, inventory available in Dubai,
Okay.
right? The goal with the 2040 plan is to hit 6 million people by 2040.
Right.
Right now we're at 3.5 million people. We are, sorry, a little bit of math, you'll have to edit it later.
That's okay.
We deliver, or the market delivers in Dubai, they announce say 50 or 60,000 units, but they deliver about 30 or 40,000 units
Perfect.
every year.
Absolutely.
So say if you take 40,000 units a year for 15 years,
Right.
that's another 600,000 units.
Yes.
So that's 1.2 million,
Right.
right? We have to get to 6 million people. We're at 3.5. So
Yeah.
that's 2.5 million people. So you're saying by 2040, you're going to have 1.2 million units and 2.5 million more people. So there's going to be a dearth, right? Even if you take 2 people to 1 unit, there's still going to be a dearth.
Yes.
And with this new D33 plan, it's moved up to 7 or 7.5 million.
Right.
Because they want to double the GDP. So like that planning has to start now.
Yes.
Right? You need to understand that all these giant master communities that have come up, they take time to develop. They may
Absolutely.
announce it today, but it's only going to be handed over in 5 years.
5 years,
Once
7
it's
years.
handed over, then it's going to take another 3 years to actually build a community.
Yes.
So you're talking about 7 to 10 years
Absolutely.
of actual development. So that planning has to start now. And, like I said, we are at a stage now where we've done extremely well, touch wood. People have accepted our product. They understand they'll get quality. They understand we'll deliver quickly.
Right.
Our turnaround time, so we only do mid-rise, but our turnaround time on projects construction is 18 to 20 months,
Right.
which again, in Dubai, standard is 3 years,
Exactly.
right? So we are now at a phase where we're looking to scale. We're like, look, you have money, you want a smart investment, come invest with us. And I'm not talking about units, I'm talking about the development level. Like if you have it, don't come and start a development and do the same thing that everyone else is doing. Try and do something different. We are now at the stage where we have a lot of interest in that sort of area. And we are now looking to scale strategically and carefully. We don't want to jump and suddenly start doing 10 developments at a time. That's not the idea. But how we grow and the next phase of what ZāZEN Properties wants to do is still always grow but add value.
Perfect. That's great. No, that's very important. Adding value is, I think, something which a lot of developments don't do.
Correct.
So that's it. Now, talking about the market cycles, right? Obviously, it's everybody knows we are right now in a cycle where the markets have been growing exponentially in the last 3-4 years, especially post-COVID. We've just seen a one-way growth. What do you see? Do you see this market somewhere stabilizing? Do you see a correction coming in? What is your opinion from a developer's point of view? What do you see happening?
So, you're in the market. You already know that the top end of the market is already slowing down.
Yes.
I think my personal opinion on this is that, like I said, the long-term outlook is that there is still going to be a shortage.
Yes.
And you need smart developments to sort of fill that gap. And I think the government is going to put pressure to make sure it's done that way based on all their plans over the next 10, 15 years. In the short term, I think, like I said, the prime residential market has to adjust because the prices are just untenable.
Yes.
But look, as long as the ultra wealthy are coming into Dubai, there will still be those big spikes of sales, which is good. But I mean, if there's like 5 big transactions every month, the rest of the transactions need to also balance it out. So I think the middle market segment will sort of sustain, because if you're priced anywhere between sort of 1,050 to 1,250, I think that's a safe space. I think that it's still affordable. It's as the GDP grows, per capita GDP grows for each individual, I think what they can afford will also change. And as people look, we have a lot more Europeans coming in to live in the country. We have a lot more Australians and people coming in. Our first project, I think we have 22 nationalities. Our second project also, we have I think 19 or 20 nationalities who've bought. So there's a big different mix, and their expectations are different. They want quality that they have seen. They want communities that they have seen and lived in. So we cater to that. We understand that the population mix is changing. They're smarter. They can get online and find out about a price and a square foot, at the drop of a hat. So you can't play around with those. Now you have to deliver on quality. You may be able to sell once on sort of false marketing, which people have done. But that's only once, right? You will not be able to make that mistake again because people will get savvy to it. So I think in that middle price, I think that is still sustainable. Even if it goes down, it'll go down $50-100, which still, at the end of the day, as a developer, you can still absorb that drop and still make a profit. But I think the high end is going to get affected the most. I mean, things that launched at 4,000 or 5,000 dirhams a square foot. I mean, it's just crazy for me.
True. So you see the mid segment, the affordable luxury segment going,
relatively stable. Look, a correction will obviously come. I believe that toward this time next year, there'll probably be a slight correction. In the middle segment, probably 10%, 12%. What's expected? Not too much.
And that is healthy also for the market.
It's healthy, exactly. And I think, but the high-end segment has to be a bigger drop. Because again, that's the first place that's hit. And like I said, I want Dubai to grow. So absolutely. I hope that doesn't happen. If it does, I think this segment is more protected.
And how do you see, say for example, tomorrow, a slowdown happens, markets correct, right? When you plan for a project, do you take that into calculation and go ahead? Because look, I mean, when you're doing a project, it's from the time you actually decide, okay, you want to start and you buy or you're procuring land till you actually hand over is like a good 2-3 years, sometimes even more. So how do you actually factor that in? Do you actually factor that in, or it's like,
So,
how does that happen?
It's difficult to factor in. A recession hits, you do a risk analysis for your sort of lowest sales price so that you're still making enough return to cover debt or so that's how you sort of look at it. But again, we launch and we sell off plan. So as soon as we acquire a land, we take say 5-6 months to detail design it and do the project registration. You launch it. So you're looking at within the first 9 months, you're actually looking at to exit in terms of sales, as in to sell out the project. And once you've sold out the project, then it's about managing accounts receivable, right? And you have to understand that, look, I understand that bigger companies, it'll be more difficult because they'll have 5,000-10,000 buyers. For us, we'll have a few hundred buyers. But we listen to all the needs at that given moment. Our target is mainly end users. I would say 80% of our inventory is sort of end user focused and 20% is investor. And I've found that end users, it's either their first or second purchase, and they really want their home. Yes, some of them will face issues. So we've been lucky. We've had no defaults. We've had no cancellations. After the SPA has been signed, 0. So, you manage it, but it's a risk analysis. And you have to understand that if you've sold out and before the recession hits, then it's about managing cash flows and managing receivables. If you are selling during a recession hitting, then you've done your risk analysis. You understand that, okay, I can't go below 1,000 dirhams a square foot, otherwise I'm losing money. So these sort of things come into play. But again, it's you look at it every quarter and sort of make a decision.
Got it. Madhav, I think that was a very informative talk. Not only that, I personally got to know a lot of things, and that was really great. I wish you all the best for your future projects, and we hope to see more sustainable developments coming in Dubai very soon.
Thank you. We hope to be the only ones doing them.
Great. Thanks for coming.
A lot. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.